Hello, everybody. This is Nikki Asher Bowling from Motherhood Unfiltered. It's going to be okay. And today's guest is Debra Vogue. So, whether you're experiencing your own crisis or managing others throughout theirs, she is a crisis navigation partner and can help you determine your goals, express, hold on here, express complicated situations. So and before I bring her on, I just want to remind everybody that if you're watching this on YouTube, to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And that will help with the algorithm getting more people to see it. And if you listen on any podcast platform, then please go to uh, Apple, and then you can rate and review there. I don't know of any other podcast platform that where you can rate your the podcast. So now let me bring Debra on so we can get to know her. Hi, Debra.
Good morning. Good afternoon.
Yeah. So, Debra, just tell us a little bit about being a crisis navigation partner and how you got started being a crisis navigation partner.
Okay. So I am a crisis navigation partner, which is a profession that I basically made up. So if you haven't heard of this before, you're in great company with most of the 7 billion plus people in the world.
Yeah.
But I created the concept of a crisis navigation partner because I have been both a leader and a leadership consultant and coach in
Oh,
situations where I've been in crisis, or when I was the consultant or coach, where my clients have been in crisis,
right.
where they've been, and I've been a woman who's a leader and feeling on my own for some reason. And my clients have been too, either because they're single or they're only children of, they're the only adult child of parents that they need to take care of, or
Hmm.
they are at the top of an organization. It can be really lonely at the top.
Yeah, for sure.
So my role is to be that person that I wish that I had in some of the difficult things that I went through, especially my child's mental health crisis.
Hmm.
My role is to be that person for my clients where I can provide emotional support combined with practical support.
Hmm.
So I do research on behalf of my clients. I help them strategize for difficult conversations. I
Hmm.
do a lot of listening and teasing out what are the pain points that are
Yeah.
personal and what are the pain points that are situational, and how can we guide your way through to the best possible outcome of the situation.
Wow, that's really interesting. I love that you well, first of all, I didn't realize that you created this role. And
Mhm.
I mean, how smart is that? I don't nobody else has done that. So, but I mean, to have someone that you can reach out to when you're, in the middle of a crisis, like I know when I went through my divorce, I would have loved to have somebody there to help me with that. Because
Me too.
yeah, because I
Yeah.
was a stay-at-home mom, and I ended up with having 3 little boys, and I the first thing I could think of was, well, I need to get a job, but if I'd had someone helping me, then I could have helped, not only, find a job, but also help the boys transition, from
Mhm.
being a two-parent home to a one-parent home and all of
Mhm.
that. It just seems like we are always like putting out fires, and stuff like that happens. And then our loved ones are being put to the back burner because we're
Mhm.
just trying to take care of their their basic needs. So I really love that. So how So kind of explain the steps, like more if someone is lost a loved one and they reach out to you. So what would be the first thing that you would want to look at?
Well, initially, I always have a no cost conversation to understand what's going on for the person and
Mhm.
to see how I think I might be able to help vis-a-vis
Mhm.
what they're looking for. Sometimes it seems like I can help, and sometimes it seems like I'm not the right person. And in those cases, I'm always happy to refer them to someone else. I'm a big connector. I have a large
Yeah.
network of brilliant women who can provide a lot of different services. So
Right.
it starts with kind of the assessment piece. What's your current situation, and what is your ideal, best possible outcome given this difficult situation that you're in?
Oh, okay. I really like that. Doing an assessment, I and sometimes if someone's like me, they'll probably go, I don't know what the best possible outcome is,
Yeah.
because how do you think of that when you've lost somebody,
Yeah. So taking that example, right? I mean, the best possible outcome would be bring them back to life. Okay. So I don't have that power. That is not in the job description I made up for myself. Although, if I had the power, I'd put it right in there. It would be right
Yeah.
there. People would like it. I would like it.
Yeah,
So,
she's doing God's work now, so.
so what I do is work with people to define success at this phase of their life, and
Yeah.
how can they leverage their unique brilliance, so their best
Mhm.
skills and interests and qualities, their top needs, their top values, their priorities. How do they
Mhm.
leverage all that to create the next phase of life without this person? What kind of
Yeah.
support do they need? What
Right.
kinds of access? What are the
Mhm.
toughest things going on right now? What would
Wow.
lighten their load? What are the big
Yeah.
decisions that you're facing? So, I mean, I can't do that magical thing, but
Right.
I can help ease someone into the next phase. And I can help them understand grief better. Although I'm not a grief counselor, if someone had
Yeah.
through that before,
Right.
is not linear, and it takes so many different phases, and they don't necessarily go in order. Um,
Mhm.
Even though Elizabeth Kubler-Ross had all the right ideas in there, even she said you don't always go from denial,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So I see myself as a thought partner,
Uh-huh.
as well as an extra pair of hands. I studied psychology in college, and then I went to business school. I was an organizational change consultant and a leadership and career consultant for,
Mhm.
it's been 25 years now since I graduated from business school. And
Right,
I
right.
bring my own skills and expertise to bear.
Uh-huh.
As having gone through some of my own difficult situations, I just know how painful it can
Yeah.
be to be on your own. And some people have family and friends who can help them through these kinds of things, and that's great.
Yeah.
And some people don't for whatever reason, and
Yeah,
that's
I do agree with that. I find it more and more that there are people that just don't have someone they can turn to.
yeah,
Um, I don't know if it's just because they're not close to people, to their family or whatever, but like for me, I know how busy my family is. I would not want to burden them with something, so I would probably want to reach out and ask for help. So what kind of crisis have you faced in your life or in your work? I mean, obviously this is a personal thing for you
yeah.
because you decided to um, change your whole career to help other people.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think I was helping other people in the earlier parts of my career too, but I've just tried to hone in even more specifically now.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't a big switch. It was a clarification for me
Mm.
more than
Oh,
anything.
okay.
But to answer your question, starting with, as a kid, my family moved around because of my dad's job 9 times by the time I
Oh,
graduated
Lord. That's a
college.
lot.
So we lived all over the United States, and we were constantly having to start over. And when
Mhm.
you're a kid and you get taken away from your friends, that's a kind of crisis on its own.
Yeah.
So it's not a tragedy, but it's hard.
Yeah.
And I have the experience of starting over and building new community. I have experience of starting over a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
As I went into my 20s, I lost my best friend from business school to,
Mhm.
no, I lost my best friend from high school right
Mhm.
after I was in business school
Mhm.
to AIDS. And before that, he had become very suddenly ill, and I helped him and his partner identify potential treatment options for the particular. Um,
Diagnosis.
within
Yeah.
that, because AIDS is a
Right.
collection of things.
Right.
I went through that. I got married. I had kids. Those were great things. I got divorced. I became a single mom. My second child of 2 just turned 18 yesterday, and in November it'll be 14 years.
Yeah.
So I've been a single mom on my own. During that time, um, my son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
Oh
My
goodness.
and then my daughter, a few years later, started having severe generalized anxiety disorder.
Yeah.
So those are some examples of the crises I've personally had. I've been very fortunate in a lot of ways in life that I haven't had a lot more loss
Mhm.
of people in my life who were, younger. Um,
Right. I find it interesting that sometimes we go through things, as a child or as a young adult that helps us, like you said, like hone in or redefine our purpose. And those things have helped you with your own personal journey and your children,
yeah,
so and they are better off for it, because you already practiced this in your life, then it just makes it easier to help someone else who's in the middle of a crisis. And I just really love that concept. I know, um like I've said before, there's lots of people that don't, have somebody. And I feel like we just need to get this message out there that, hey, you're not alone. We've got someone here that can help you in this, moment of your crisis.
yeah,
So, so what was the defining moment that you were like, this is what I got to be doing? I got to help people when they're in the middle of a crisis. Was that a defining moment, or was it just a slow revelation, or how
it
did that happen?
was actually kind of a sudden revelation. Um, it's just going back to your question about types of crises before. I've also been through my own existential crises, and what am I doing here? And what is my purpose? And am I
Yeah.
am I serving where people need me? And am I
Right.
fulfilled from my work? I've
Right.
also been downsized. I've been laid off. I have
Mhm.
been in charge of human resources for a company where I had to lay everybody else off.
Oh gosh.
Um, I've been through disputes. I've coached a lot of other people through various kinds of disputes,
Yeah.
legal and otherwise. So back to your question now. In around 2017, I started my business in 1999. Around
Mhm.
2017, I went through kind of a phase that I think I've been through. That's probably the third time I've been through, where I felt like I love having my business. I'm successful. I like my work, but it's not lighting me up like it used to. I'm not like, whoa,
Oh
I feel
yeah.
like I'm doing exactly what I'm here to do. And I am so excited to show up every day to do it.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
liked it, but it
I
wasn't energizing me the way it used to.
Right. Right. Oh, I totally get that.
And so I used the tools that I used as a career coach with my clients, some of which had come because I used them in the past in my own
Yeah.
existential crises, to think about what would success look and feel like for me, and what were the times in my life that I felt most alive, most
Yeah.
useful,
Right.
most fulfilled.
Mhm. Yep.
And I started making lists. And then I was looking at this whole list of things I've been through that some of them were related to my business and some of them weren't, things that I'd gone through as a friend or as a loved one of somebody else.
Right.
And I was like, holy cow. I just had this kind of moment, like, there's been a lot of crisis in my life and in my clients' lives. And I am one of these weirdos who kind of goes towards, not away from.
You've run toward the danger.
I mean, I don't go towards like bungee jumping or anything, but
I didn't mean that. But
I know, like, I don't love adventure. I'm not a thrill seeker. My dad was a volunteer EMT when I was little. He used to bring home the ambulance sometimes. I was very little, like 2 and 3. I remember it being in the driveway. But when my dad, to this day, listens to a police scanner to relax. I don't do that. But if somebody I deeply care about is having an emergency and they come to me, I stop what I'm doing.
Right.
I mean, the way my dad would like follow a fire truck from a safe distance just to watch and see what's on fire and how they handle it. I want to be there for other people. And I just realized how many times it had come up in situations that I was not creating. I mean, I contributed to my divorce. But there were so many situations in the lives of my clients and friends and family that I wasn't making happen. But then when they came and said, I want you by my side during this, or like so many people have asked me to be the executor of their wills.
Yeah.
Hi. And I was thinking about that too. Like, so you want me in your crisis when you've left your crisis. Why?
Because they want you to pick up the pieces.
I started asking people, like, why did you come to me during that? Why do you want me to be here in those situations? And I was listening to the themes, and that aha moment helped me realize, okay, I get it, what I want to do. And then I had to think about, well, what's the name for this? Because only profession that's this thing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be more clear that I wasn't your garden variety career coach, or life coach has never resonated with me for my work. But more than being a business coach, more than being a leadership coach.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, people are seeing you as a standard or a pillar, a strong foundation. And they know that even though they may be flying in the wind, they can, link arms with Debra, and Debra will hold on to them, and guide them through the next step that they need to go through. I feel like each time, well, I would think that each time you would help somebody, that you probably learn something new.
Oh yeah.
And, and you're just still continuing to learn and to help others, with the next client. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I think it just left my brain because that's the way it is, but
I have a thought to mention if you want while you're thinking about what.
Yeah, go ahead.
As I was putting together my kind of own, not manifesto, but my own ideas about how I wanted to serve and who I wanted to serve, I realized that in a crisis, there's kind of 2 different roles. And I don't think that people talk about this in this way. So again, I made up the language. If you know better language for this, please tell me. But this is what I'm using in the meantime. You've either got, in a crisis, you are either the person 0, who's got kind of the ground zero, the person right in the center of it. This thing is happening to you. You're getting divorced. You're lying in the hospital bed. You just got laid off. You just got a diagnosis, something like that.
Yeah.
Or another way you could be in a crisis is that you are the point person for a person 0. So you're the spouse of that person. You're the adult child of that person. You're the parent of that person. You're the best friend of that person.
Oh, great analogy. Yeah. Yeah.
The point person often has as much stress and challenge from the experience as the person 0.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of people about this. I have been the point person, most of the time in the crises that I've experienced. And I feel like It's a role. People don't get how much support the point people need to get through it.
Yeah. Yes.
And then there's some situations that are the hardest, where someone is both the person zero and they have to be their own point person.
Oh,
I have
Lord.
a close friend from business school who was diagnosed a year and a half ago with breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
She's single. She lives by herself.
Mm-hmm.
And she was the one going through it. And yet she had to be the one to figure out, what are all the treatment options, and how do I file for my disability insurance, and where do I go to get the prosthetic breast? And
Yeah.
she's had to do so much. And when I told her, when this started, that
Mm-hmm.
I was, dedicated as a friend to doing whatever she needed me to do. And I went to
Right.
appointments with her on FaceTime during the pandemic. She lives in another city.
Mm-hmm.
But I just saw how especially draining it can be when
Yeah.
and she's still a year and a half later, thank goodness she's free of cancer now, but she's still dealing with all the side effects from the treatments.
Oh, gosh.
And
Yeah.
she's still fighting with the disability insurance company to get the payouts for the policy that her employer had paid for. And there's
Yeah.
just so much to deal with.
Right.
So I just wanted to highlight that too. I'm here
No,
for
I'm glad you brought that up. I remember,
people.
yeah, we had talked about that
Yeah.
too. And that is such an amazing point, because someone who, like you said, has they're sick, they have a disease, and they also have to be their own point person. They don't even have time to focus on getting better. They don't have time to rest, or you
Right.
know because they're so busy. They have to call or email or research. And yeah, I can totally see how that would just be, and that's stressful, and added stress adds to whatever disease or that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And I just love that you remember to point that out. So anybody who is helping someone else, you know y- you can use this
You
service.
too might need a crisis navigation partner. I have a client who came to me referred by uh, a friend of mine who had been her coach.
Yeah.
She was a vice president of a tech company. Her
Uh-huh.
partner, who she had been with for 4 years up to this point, but they weren't married and they didn't live together. They considered
Uh-huh.
themselves partners. He had been diagnosed with glioblastoma 6 months
Oh,
before she came to me.
yeah.
And glioblastoma is a very aggressive, fast moving cancer.
Wow.
So she was trying to be everything for him, in sickness and in health, although they hadn't actually made those vows. And at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, she was trying to be the vice president of the function in her company that she runs,
Oh,
and
my
manage all
goodness.
of that, and the change that the organization was going through. And she just had
Yeah.
so much on her plate. And she was trying to figure out for him what the best nutrition was and how could he get into this specialist in Boston
Uh,
versus the not a
yeah.
well-known person for glioblastoma who's also at a Boston hospital.
Right.
She had so much on her plate, and
Mm-hmm.
they would delegate tasks to me. They would delegate research to me, and it
Wow.
was helpful for them both, even though I actually haven't ever met him.
Mm-hmm.
I was always working directly with her,
Right.
and I had to be a mirror, sometimes maybe mirror is not the right image, but I needed to reflect back to her sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You need a break. You
Yeah.
are allowed to take a break.
Yeah.
You want to sleep in your own bed tonight and not his because you need a good night's sleep and you don't want
Yeah.
the his giant dog crawling into bed with you. That's reasonable. And even though you're scared that he won't be here in 6 months, you need to take
Yeah.
care of yourself now
Right.
to help him through this next 6 months and for yourself.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
And she may not have had anybody else being very clear and upfront with her and say, hey, you got to take care of yourself first. you
Yeah, and
know.
everybody else in his family was looking to her to be the point person because they didn't want to be the point person, and
Yeah.
but she needed.
So, I mean, have you been helping a client and you've just because I would be someone that would be so emotionally involved in the situation, their feelings are my feelings, their cry, I cry.
Yeah.
So, how do you handle that? When you obviously, your friends and you've helping them, um, and you're trying not to, you know, break down in front of them because you want to be strong for them. How do you handle those moments? Because I know this has to be a very touching and,
Oh yeah.
situation for you.
And I'm an empath. I really feel other people's feelings along with them. So
Yeah.
I have had to learn I pivoted my business to hone in more on this in
Uh-huh.
2019. And I really have had to learn since then how to up my own game in terms of self-care and
Uh-huh.
lower my expectations of myself in other areas so that I could really be there for other people without exhausting myself.
Yeah.
Of course, I get tired. I went through a situation this week with someone, they're a 19-year-old who had a psychotic break that was brought on by some super potent weed that she had smoked.
Oh, Lord.
And, I was with her for about 3 days and going
Mm-hmm.
through everything in the ER and the hospital and getting her treatment and everything she needed. And I mean, I was so tired afterwards. I
Yeah.
really go to bed early and take care of myself. And so
Yeah.
I learned to also be extra gentle with myself. And I consider that a not a public service, but a private service to
Mm-hmm.
my clients or my loved ones because
Right.
they're more likely to believe that it's okay for them to go to bed
Mm-hmm.
early if they
Yeah.
see that I'm doing that and that's how I can keep showing up.
Right. Right. That's really great. I mean, you definitely have to be intentional and aware and conscientious of yourself in the moment so that okay, I'm almost to my breaking point here, um I need to, step away and go take care of myself. So I really like that you recognize that, because I mean what you tell other people, if you don't practice it, then
Right.
it's not going
Not
to be yeah. So how can people reach out to you, Deborah? I know you have a beautiful website.
Yeah. So this is a little confusing. So the name of my business is Connect and then the number 2 Corporation. But
Uh-huh.
on social media and my website, it's all at Connect TWO.
Oh,
That's my handle on Instagram. That's my Facebook page. That's my .com. So if you want to email me, Debra at connecttwo.com. Those are some good ways to get in touch.
and you have a free brochure that people can download.
I do, yeah, on my website. And I also have a kind of cool tool that helps people understand when they are being, oh yeah, that's my brochure.
Yeah.
Helps people understand. It's a quiz that helps people understand when they are being competent in a crisis
Uh-huh.
situation and when they are going too far and working too hard and overcompensating and why.
Oh,
And
I
anyone
love
can
that.
take that. Um, and it's under services. There's a drop down menu for services on my homepage.
Yeah.
And it's like takes 10 minutes, but you get back a customized report. And I created this whole thing and I think it's really neat. I recommend it. It's a good way to get to know the kinds of things.
Definitely, because someone could go there and be like, I don't know if I need anybody, but they take the quiz and are like, oh Lord, I'm in crisis mode. I better reach out to Deborah and say help.
I mean, the questions aren't, on the quiz, the questions aren't, are you in a crisis? But they're more, how do you handle challenging situations and what
Oh,
you feel
okay.
afterwards and what are the causes of this? So, yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Well,
Just
Deborah, I appreciate you so much for taking the time out to talk to my audience Motherhood Unfiltered is going to be okay. I
Yeah.
talk to mothers who are dealing with anxiety and depression on a daily basis. And a lot of those situations arise from being in a crisis, whether it's being, a divorcee or suffering from, a loss of a loved one, or just being a single mom, just trying to navigate their life.
Yeah.
Um, I have always said I wish now that I had someone that I could, um, maybe I always thought of like a living nanny, that could help me when the boys were younger. Um, but, that's in the past now. So now I'm just hoping that people can use these tools to reach out and say, yes, I need your help. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so thank you so much for joining me today on
Thank
my
you for having
podcast.
me. It's a pleasure talking to you, and I appreciate being part of your community too.
Thank you, Deborah.